Negotiation Club. Now, this is our pop-up practice series. And this is an opportunity to basically get a chance to watch a few of us practice our negotiation skills. And I can promise you, there's nothing scripted here. So it could go well or it could make us look quite foolish as well. But in order to make us look foolish, I've got two friends of mine. I have here Mike Inman, and Fred Copestake. Um, Mike is a fellow trainer in negotiation skills, background in procurement. Fred is a fellow trainer, but he's on the sales side. So he's basically the enemy of procurement, although that's a bit harsh, I suspect.
Yeah, let's not call me enemy. Yeah, let's.
Yeah. He's just the other side, the lesser version, the negative. Anyway, look, I've got to stop before I go any further forward. Right. So first things first. For those of you who have joined to basically watch this is a live broadcast at the moment. We are going to be practicing some negotiation skills. Now, we're going to be doing that in about 4 minutes, just to give time for other people to join in. So I'm going to be really clever and have 4 minutes on my countdown here. It's preparation for you, isn't it? There we go. Right, so 4 minutes, we're going to get started with that. In the meantime, if anybody who's just joining us or is joining us, by all means, throw some messages in there. Let us know that you are listening. And for the next 2 or 3 minutes, Mike, Fred, any interesting thoughts or conversations or things happening since the last time we spoke?
Fred?
No, Mike. Always. I mean, lots of things. I'm just trying to think what can we discuss in 3 minutes, which is what we've got left.
Okay. Well, actually, I did put a post up earlier this afternoon, and it was about the fact that I was questioning whether any procurement managers, any procurement leaders, actually sat in with their procurement teams to observe them negotiate. All right, because there's almost like an assumption that when you go into procurement, I'm just talking procurement here, but when you go into procurement, you're somehow a negotiation expert, and therefore you're often left to your own devices. And I've had 30 years in procurement, and I've probably had nobody come along and sit in on my negotiations to observe. I've done it a couple of times, but I just think that's a wasted opportunity. I just, my thought.
Yeah, so I was asked to sit in on one. My boss said, "Hey, you need to go observe," and there was some weird stuff going on in this negotiation. I don't want to mention their names; they may be out there. And so I sat and I watched the negotiation go down, and I purposely didn't sit at the table. I sat in the back. I sat away, and just listened in mostly on what was going on. And I do feel they were putting on a bit of a show for me. They were really trying hard to persuade the other side that our side was correct, and that's great and all, but this deal took 18 months to put together because there was a lot of posturing and things like that. So I think there's a different dynamic we need to consider when there's an observer in the room. So it needs to be a safe learning environment. For the observer needs to say, "Hey, listen, I'm here to help you. I'll give you private coaching off the side. I'm not going to tell everybody. I'm not going to tell your boss. I'm here to be your eyes and ears to things that you're not seeing when you're in the negotiation." There's got to be trust there. I don't know. Does that resonate with you guys?
Yeah, there's a phenomenon for this. There's a clever name, and maybe someone who's cleverer than me will know what it is and pop it into chat. Which is the effect that when something is observed, you're not actually observing the thing that's observed anymore, because it does change. It does change.
It's the Schnoder's box. If you look at in the box with the cat, the cat's either alive or dead. It's a thought experiment, but it's a physics experiment too, I think.
But I'd agree with Fred. I think the problem is when people come in to observe, if it's almost out the blue, it's something you need to develop, which is part of your management and leadership skills, to be able to observe, to be able to be, safely give advice, and for people to feel that you're comfortable there. And this is part of the issue, isn't it? When people do that, it's real world negotiation. So there's a fear of failure. And again, this is what I've noticed on practice here. I mean, there's a case here that if one of us was to look really stupid, and I'm okay with that because I'm learning every time I do that. But there's a lot of people.
I have to live with it.
He's gone now, yeah.
Hey, do not challenge me to be stupid.
Oh my God, how many minutes left?
24 hours.
We've only got 20 seconds. All right, we got 20 seconds. Okay. I can see Martin, John, you're watching and you've agreed with us there. Yeah, I think we don't do enough observation of our own teams and therefore not giving enough support. And we do miss out. I mean, from a procurement perspective, we
Hey,
really
Phil,
miss out.
can I add, last week, you and I negotiated with each other. We didn't reach agreement. In the real world, sometimes there isn't an option to not reach agreement. Either the salesperson has to deliver or miss their quota, or the purchasing person who has internal customers saying, hey, get that purchaser out the door. We've got a project to start. There really isn't an option to not reach agreement. So there is also a different dynamic in practicing and being observed and the real world and being observed. Those are two different dynamics I think need to be considered.
Okay, well, I tell you what, why don't we have a go at it? So
Let's do it.
yeah, so we're going to have a little practice. So ladies and gentlemen, this is your chance to observe two bald guys having a practice, because this is going to be Fred and myself having a go here. So Mike, I'm just going to throw you out just for a second.
Yep.
And if I'm right, Fred, we're going to be using negotiation cards, but you're going to be what? Do you want to be the buyer?
Ooh, I want to be the buyer. Yeah, you've told me how good this buying malarkey is. I'm going to do that. Yeah.
All right, you can be the buyer. I'm going to become poacher the gamekeeper. So I'm going to become the seller. So right, so we have our negotiation cards. We're going to use a single variable card. There's obviously lots of different variables we can use, but this is great for just trying some tactics, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to try some of our tactics here. So the way this is going to work, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to show a card. I'm going to show a tactic. Fred and I are going to have 4 minutes of a negotiation practice. Our goal is to try and use the tactic. Okay, try to improve or understand how the tactic has worked. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we will come to an agreement, because it's not necessarily about an agreement here. We're practicing something specifically. At the end of it, I'm going to have a little guess as to what Fred was doing, and Fred's going to have a little guess as to what I'm doing, and then we're going to bring in Mike. And Mike is going to give us a good 5 or 6 minutes of just feedback. And that really is what the concept is around practicing negotiations. So with that in mind, I have the cards. You're the buyer, aren't you? So let's do this. So I'm going to shuffle the cards. Right, now then, I'm not going to look, but you tell me if you can see a budget.
Okay, I can. Yeah, okay, got it. Thank you.
You sure? Right, and
Yeah.
now I'm going to give you a tactic. And again, I don't know what tactic you're going to have, but again, let's go with this one.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have one deck of cards. You won't believe this. All the buyers' numbers are exactly the same, and all the sellers' numbers are exactly the same. All right. And I use this when I go into schools and colleges just as an exercise to get them all to negotiate. They all agree different numbers. And then when I tell them they've all got the same number one they're agreeing with, they all then start screaming and shouting, because some of them realize they've done better than the others. It's a great deck of cards. It's all the same number.
Good riot. Get a riot going.
Right. Now you need to look away, Fred.
Okay.
All right. So I have, for everybody else's information, I have a break even. You're not peeking through your eyes, are you?
No, I'm not peeking through my
you
fingers.
sure?
It'll spoil it. No, it's spoil it. I don't want to.
All right. And then I have a tactic or something I need to try. Okay. Right. So you can look back now, Fred.
You sure?
You can. You can.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to put 4 minutes on the screen as well. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. All right, we're going to have 4 minutes. Let's see if we can agree a satisfactory price per ton of apples. But I also want us to use our tactic or tactics as best as we can. Okay, and obviously for those of you who are watching, feel free to add some comments at the end. Possibly don't put them during the negotiation. We'll see. So, Fred, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. In that case, our time starts now. No, it doesn't.
Tactic.
Dear,
Is that the tactic?
Yeah.
False
that is the
timelines.
tactic.
I've got it.
It is. Right. Okay. This is why practice can anything happen. Right. Okay. Ready, steady, go.
Let's go. Good.
You know, good afternoon, Fred. It's great to see you here. What can I do for you, sir?
Well, I have been told you are a purveyor of the finest apples, and I am looking for apples. So let's talk about that.
Perfect. Listen, As a business, just to explain a little bit more about us as a business, we actually do have a conglomerate of various apple orchards throughout the UK and a couple in Europe as well. So we can actually provide you with a wide variety, depending on what you're looking for. Can I ask what are you interested, and what are you going to be using them for as well?
So I can take your advice on the sort I need. What I'm trying to do is I'm creating a new drinks category. So it's cider, but it's cider that I'm adding CBD to. So CBD cider, healthy stuff.
Isn't CBT, isn't that marijuana?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
it's the non-active ingredient, which
Right.
is all
Okay.
good for your joints and all this kind of stuff. And cider's good for your full stop. So I thought, let's mix it together.
Interesting. So you're looking for a apple variety that is possibly what, going to complement? Is there a flavor to it? Do you need it to be sweet or slightly tart?
Sweet tart. It's sweeter drinks appeal to broader audience.
Okay. All right. And just as a matter of interest, it's a new product, but what kind of volumes are you looking at?
Volumes are I don't know. I know what we're thinking in. We're basically thinking a tanker load, which is then going to canning. So I haven't even done the proper calculations.
Okay, so
because
just
you're the apple man.
Yeah, just to help you out with that, if you're looking at a tanker, you're looking at about 1,000 gallons. For 1,000 gallons, you're probably looking at about 10 tons of apples.
Okay.
All right. So if I work on
I'm going
that
to get a
base,
good price then. That's a lot, isn't it?
you're gonna get an absolutely brilliant price for 10 tons, because actually 10 tons fits nicely in one of our wagons as well. So if you're looking for sweet
on the wagon, yeah, ironic.
on the do you have an idea of what your kind of budget would be for a price of ton?
I don't. I mean, that's what comes to you. I'm waiting for you to tell me.
Okay. Well, if you're looking for the sweeter type of apples, which goes into it, then you are looking at a price per ton of £850 per ton.
Sweet. Okay. Right. Now, I guess they're smaller, which is why they're sweeter. So if they're bigger, and not as sweet, less sugar, they'll be cheaper, won't they? So what's that?
Well, bigger doesn't really make any difference, to be honest, Fred. It's the same weight at the end of the day, but certainly it might have a difference in the packaging. If you're looking for a slightly bitter version, which I would probably say is a slightly lower quality version. So high quality sweet apples, 1 ton, 850. But if you're looking for a lower quality, slightly bitter variety, then we can do another one at 795 per ton.
795.
Would you be able to have those delivered within the next 2 weeks?
If that has an effect on price, next 2 weeks is interesting.
Okay, like I said, we can deliver it. So if you were to accept the 10 tons, either variety, 795 or the 850, and deliver them within 2 weeks, I'll give you a 4% new customer discount just for the first one.
What's the maths on that? I haven't got my calculator on me.
Well, don't worry about it, because I'm now going to go and have a chat with my internal manager, Mike, to see if this can actually be achieved. But thank you very much, Fred, anyway.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Right, so just again, for those of you who might be watching, it's just always surprising if anybody's watching at all. So that's just basically an idea of a practice. You know, we don't need to be practicing our negotiations for a full hour. We literally just need 4 or 5 minutes to see if we can try our tactic. Doesn't mean we always get a chance to use it, but the whole idea is to create a little bit of a difference between our requirements and to practice. So with that in mind, Fred, any thoughts as to perhaps what tactic or skills I was trying to use?
Fred, if you get this one,
do it at the beginning. Was it silence? Was it silence? Because it seems an odd one to start with.
I'd say no.
That's a hard one, isn't it?
That's why I asked you what your budget was, just so I could just say no, just to see how you'd go with it. Yeah. But then you didn't even do a counter. So again, for those of you who are watching, we are trying to practice these on purpose. Now, of course, you might not get to use it, but the fact that you're thinking about it is actually of value as well. But no on that one. Now, in terms of what I think you were doing, Fred, Um, I think you might have been doing a little bit of mirroring. You were repeating a few things, but I didn't catch anything else because you didn't really ask any questions either. So
It was mirroring.
mirroring.
It was mirroring.
Way.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, and again, for those of you observing, one of the major important parts of practicing is it's not just about us, it's about the other party. Okay, so we know what we want to say, but it's really important to practice listening to the other party as well. So this is often the first question I ask as well. Now, before we get any further, I haven't looked at your card, but Fred, I'm working on the basis that you could accept either of those numbers.
No, I couldn't.
You couldn't?
No.
Oh, 733. God, I hate poker faces.
That's what I was born with. Oh my word! Right,
You gotta have one of these, Fred.
I think we'd have got there. We'd have got there.
I think we would have.
We'd have started messing around with variables. I'd got a load of things. You started talking about taking the 10 ton at once, and I thought, let's put some more variables in so that you could move. Because I wanted to get an agreement. I want to work with you. So I reckon we'd have got to somewhere, but in the time.
I suspect we would have, but I also suspect that in terms of the available value, we would probably have been closer up to the budget side than we would have got down to the 7,350. And the reason for that, I would also argue, Fred, is that I wasn't getting a big impression that you couldn't accept my proposals. So I would really tighten up. I would not want to be coming down to my number at all, based on your response to me at that moment. That's all I would say on that one.
Do I need a professional flinch?
You could have used the mirror to use the technique. When he threw out 850, you know, a flinch is, you could have said 850. You know, we would have mirrored and been a flinch combined in a strong, visceral way.
Fred, write this down. Next time you practice, you've got to try the Mike Inman approach, all right? 850? All right? But no, this is the whole point. You've got to try it out. I mean, believe me, this is what Mike does as well.
And I've just seen Martin's comment on the outrageous opening of 850. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. I did that at a car dealership about a month ago. They gave me a number of 2,000, and I was expecting like it would be like 200. And in front of everybody in the service area, I yelled 2,000, and everybody looked over at me. And by the way, I got it a lot off that discount just by repeating that, just by mirroring.
We'll catch up on some of these comments that people have got, but before we do it, Mike, I want you to just give us a 4-minute breakdown of some of the things you saw and any advice that you can give us as well.
So I was waiting for your opening, Phil, on to say no, and there wasn't an opportunity to say no. In fact, I was waiting to write down the word. I don't think you said no one time, but I don't think there was a natural opportunity for you to say no. Maybe when he said, "I'm looking for a vessel," what was it? The 10, not the 10 tons, but the quantity.
Tank. Yeah, I mean, he wanted a tanker full.
Right. So an opportunity to say no there might have been, no, there's just not that many available, which would then drive your price up. Oh, you need that many? You're talking to the wrong guy. No, that's not going to happen. I have a very few limited supply here available. So I guess that might have been the only opportunity I saw to throw in a hard no to a request that Fred was making on the quantity, and it would also help you on the to drive the price up to justify why it's a higher price. So I felt bad for you in that situation because I know you really wanted to get in there. Trying to think if there was another opportunity for you, and I don't have anything written down here. So Fred, on yours, so you used mirror, you said it on the sweet and tart, and you didn't just do it once. You said sweet tart, back and forth. And then you said, okay, sweet. You said it on, let's see, on the wagon. You mentioned that, on the wagon. But it was more of a in jest, like, oh, on the wagon kind of a thing. You mentioned, he said 850 for the sweet, and you said sweet. What I didn't pick up on was the intention of getting information in the mirror. You intentionally used it, but as I understand the mirror tactic. It's to elicit more information from the other side. So,
Yeah.
so when he said 850, you could have said 850, and then silence or sweet tart, and then let the silence draw more information from Phil for them to use later on in the negotiation.
Yeah.
Mir-
It's,
you
do you know
know,
what you said last week, Mike, when you said you were practicing for practicing's sake? So it's like
Yeah.
I was mirroring, but I was just mirroring for the sake of mirroring.
Okay,
It's like,
got it.
yeah,
So how did you? So
I
I
was so
last week.
concentrated on practice that, I'll just say the word that he said. Why? I don't know, just to say it.
There you go. But I think that's useful from the book. And I felt
Yeah.
really awkward last week. You said, "Oh, Mike,
Yeah.
you look kind of natural at it." I'm like, "Oh no!" Under the table, I was like squirming. I didn't feel authentic in my use of my tactic
Yeah.
last week.
But
So how did you feel when you were mirroring for mirroring's sake?
It wasn't necessarily just for mirroring's sake, and you held that book up there, Phil, and it's like, is it mirroring to extract information? For me, with NLP background, mirroring is about rapport building. So actually, it's more about getting on the same level, so that's why I know we will get to the point, because we're here trying to collaborate. We want to get an agreement. That for me is what mirroring does. So maybe I've got a slightly different intention, hence the mirroring for the joke. But it was like you said, it's just like, oh, I need to practice this. So I better practice it. I'm not quite sure. It's just funny. It's quite funny.
But
It's a funny
But see,
sensation.
so you approach it. This is interesting to me because you're a lifelong salesperson. You teach salespeople. You're in the sales community, and I'm 80% in sales, 20% in procurement. But I spent 14 years in procurement. So your intention of the mirror technique, naturally, because of your cognitive bias experience, is to use it to build the relationship.
Yep.
And I, approaching it from the procurement side, is using it to get information. And I don't have enough data points. There's not enough buyers and the sellers. We don't have a poll option set up. But I do wonder if you can take a technique that could be used by either side, but used by either side, A, differently, and B, with different intentions.
I mean, I wrote about the mirroring technique, and yeah, I did hold the book up, which obviously, Pete, a bit like Marmite, people love it, some people hate it, okay? But mirroring is one of those things you read in here and you think, oh, that's a brilliant tactic. I'd love to be able to do that. And it sits in the back of your head, but you never get a chance to practice it. But when you have to practice it, you have to try on purpose. There's a pressure to try it, just as it is with the saying no. But and again, this is the whole point of practicing, is the idea is it's forcing you to try it or forcing you to think about it. And even if you don't use it appropriately, at least you're going through the process of starting to develop some neurons on using it. And there's an interpretation. I mean, you're absolutely right, Fred. When you repeat what the other person has said, it can be mirroring, but it's also building that rapport. It's letting the other person know that you've been listening to them as well. Yeah, and there's an acknowledgement element to it as well. So it can continue to keep the conversation going. If anybody is listening, I'd love to have their thoughts. If anybody's got any comments around, what do they think about mirroring as a technique?
We did have 50 or so the last time I checked in. Looks like we're at 32 right now, so there's some people out there. Would love to hear from them. I'll monitor the chat. I'll take care of that for you.
I did also hold up another book, which was Negotiation Genius. And the reason for that is actually what you were just talking about there, Mike, is it's the loss aversion. All right, so it's using a loss aversion. You can't get 10,000. We haven't got that many out there, so you're going to miss out. So I was literally reading that this afternoon, thinking, I wonder if I can bring that into my negotiation practice as well. But again, here is another lesson for everybody. All right, if you are going to practice, don't try and practice too many things. Just try and focus on one thing at a time. 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes is long enough to try something, and you've always got another chance to have a go at it because you just shuffle the cards and have another go. But right now, Fred, you had a go at the old mirroring. So there's a way of trying these things out. I had obviously didn't get a chance to do it, but I was certainly thinking about it. But I can guarantee you the more opportunities we have of going at this, the more opportunities we have of getting it right when we do need to use it. I just want to come back to when I put my proposals out, because I had 350 as a break even. I put out 850.
Yeah, one person, Aaron says, let's see, where was it? I thought someone said outrageous opening offer. So that's Martin. Said outrageous opening offer, exclamation point.
Well, I don't know whether it's outrageous. Is it outrageous because I had 350 and then 850 is so outrageous compared to that? Or is it 850 is outrageous compared to the 733 that you had? I mean, there are cards out there with 1,000, which would not have been outrageous. And I
That's a great
loved,
point, Phil. So if your card wasn't 350, if your card was 750, would 850 have been an outrageous offer then? Well, why does that variable matter to the offer and whether it's outrageous or not?
because you end up getting anchored and biased to your position.
Oh no, absolutely. But
Yeah.
why is the word outrageous? Okay, let's say that your number was 800 and you said 850. Would then that offer have been outrageous?
Well, I'm going to blame Martin because Martin's now got us talking about outrageous propositions. And to be honest, what is outrageous? You're absolutely right. You know, what is outrageous?
It was the amount of money you're making on it. That's what's outrageous.
What's outrageous?
Because I
with
was a
that?
bit of a naive buyer. Oh, I don't know. I'm more bothered about my little brand and the CBD going into the cider and the marketing and all this sort of stuff. You're the Apple man. You're going to look after me here. No, you're not getting my pants down with you.
No, I'm not. There is right. This is going to get heated now, right? There is a zone of agreement. Okay, all right. Your responsibility as a negotiator is to agree something that is satisfactory to me. I only know this number from my perspective. So long as I feel as if I've got a great deal, I can have a great deal at 375. All right, and I walk away chuffed as bits, best deal in the world, because I don't know what your budget is. Likewise, I could agreed. Possibly we'd agreed at 720, 725 or something like that. You might think, got a great deal because I've come down from 850. You won't know that I've got a huge deal on there. So I often, I mean, I have done these practices, and I might just do this with you guys, where I don't look at my card. I literally don't look at my card. I put it down, and then I just negotiate based on the feeling I get from the other party's response.
So let's talk about feelings. Tony jumped in on one. How does Fred feel knowing what Phil's break-even price is?
So how this might spin out? How this might spin out is because I don't know, and I don't really know the price of apples. I'm so excited about my new cider CBD launch, all this stuff. I buy it, brilliant, and I go and I tell my mates, and they go, "What? You're spending how much on apples? You could be probably getting that for half the price." And I'm going to then feel particularly upset. And it ain't a long-term business deal.
No, I disagree with you.
He asked me, because I'll give him my answer.
No, absolutely fine. But I will disagree with you in the sense that, do you know what the most expensive tea bag is in the world?
I think we're about to find out.
I buy tea every time I'm in London. I bring them home to the family. The royals when they change out in different scenes. So what's like the most expensive?
$50,000 it was for a tea bag. All right. I think you've got like $1,000 hamburger somewhere in the States as well.
Yeah. Okay? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, the value element is also a perception. Now, Fred, you're absolutely right. You could go and talk to somebody else, but I can tell you now, a lot of people don't tell you what they have paid. And even if they do give you a number, they often exaggerate or reduce it because they don't want to be seen as being, you know, getting a bad deal either. So you've got to be really careful listening to what other people's numbers is.
Okay, so there's other people's numbers. Oh, and Martin has jumped in and says outrageous based on the seller's budget. If a deal was done at 400, the buyer may feel aggravated that the 850 was nonsense, which I agree with. Now let me throw this out. Let me throw this out though. Instead of so Phil, you picked up on Fred shopping it with others, meaning other buyers. But what if the others were Fred went to market and he had 8 bids come in, and one bid was 1,200, one was 1,100, one was 1,000, and maybe one was at 750, but 850 isn't outrageous if all the other sellers are charging between 1,000 and 1,200. So now the information that Fred has biases him differently than if you just show a card and a card.
Right, we're going to get into semantics. I just see what Martin's written there as well. Based on the seller's budget, if a deal was done at 400, the buyer may feel aggrieved that the 850 was nonsense. Only if you come down from 800 to 400, and only if there wasn't any real justification for the 850 to 400.
Right.
Now, I could have.
But if your BATNA is 900, your next best person you can buy from is 900. Isn't 850 reasonable?
Well, yes,
your next best option. And
Yeah,
you're
of
saying
course.
all those sellers are making way too much money. Well, what's too much? If your next best option is 900, 850 is the best deal in the market. All of a sudden, he's your buddy at 850. No?
It's a way, Fred loves me no matter what, because we've got
Hey.
a partnership. He's prepared to pay over the odds because he likes the way that I look, because it's very similar to him.
We're mirroring straight away. But
people add value for different reasons.
But my thinking, I'd say the thinking was, and again, we end up, and this is the good fun of it, isn't it? It's that, okay, I could do the deal for that because I just don't know. And it was that naivety. It's like, hang on a minute, I'd said, I don't know. You're the Apple man. I'm not sure what's going on here. Oh, well, I'll stick this price to you. Could have come in a bit less. Because if I do find out later on, I am going to be fairly fed up. Buying apples isn't my expertise.
No, and you might get fed up with it, but who's to say that I don't go in at 850 with everybody? Knowing that some can accept and some can't accept. The only reason I went in at 850 is I know that some budgets will allow for that and some budgets won't allow for that. So the only reason I'm putting 850 out there for the first one is to see what your reaction was, to tell me whether I need to be moving big or little. And your response to the 850,
you're out of your mind.
Would have helped.
850.
And what you did, Fred, is you went, sweet, okay.
I was like, mirroring had the opposite effect. Sweet. All right, exactly. You like that then? I heard 850. Sweet.
Yeah, exactly. You
gentlemen, we have a question from Peter. How about the seller approach if buyer is not dependent only at the seller's offer? So I'm interpreting that to mean, if Phil, if you knew that Fred had multiple other salespeople calling on him, would that have affected your offer? Is that, Peter? Is that a different way of saying what you the way you questioned it?
Yeah, in competitive markets, how I read it. Yeah,
I suspect it is, but then again, there are some very, very expensive orchards out there, even in a competitive market. And it's not always necessarily about the price. It could be about the service, the after service.
You did say delivery, 2 weeks.
Cash flow, payment terms.
I wrote that down as part of my feedback. I'd circled it. When Phil said 2 weeks, Fred, a mirroring opportunity would have been to say 2 weeks. To say, well, why 2 weeks? Why is that important? Are they rotting and you've got to get them out in 2 weeks? Oh, now maybe I can get a discount.
Yeah.
Right.
I also want to just add to that, when I added the 2 weeks there, the reason why I did it at that moment is because I'd given a second proposal of 795. I allowed Fred to mull it over a little bit, and he was still mumbling about something. So then I thought I'd throw the 2 weeks in there as another conversation point. And the idea there was that the 795 then stays on the table for longer without being rejected, and it acts as an anchor. So there's another reason why I did that. So, there was a lot. I mean, it was 4 minutes, but there was so many little things going on that you can break it down. So just going back to what Peter said, yes. So, the seller's approach, if the buyer is not dependent only on the seller's offer. So basically, there's other potential partners or there's competition out there.
Yeah.
My view is that you can only really negotiate in the place you're at the moment. If you start to consider what could be out there, believe me, and it's used all the time. It's like, oh, I'm out in the marketplace. No, you're not, because I know for a fact you've only got one card and nobody else has got a card. Now, the reason why you're saying that is because we know it makes us feel under pressure. It's basically loss aversion.
Yeah.
It's literally in this book, Genius, loss aversion. If you don't agree something with me now, I've got alternatives, even if I don't have. So you're using that as a pressure. Now, of course, if it's a bluff, you've got to be careful. All right. So, but if it's not a bluff, then you have good options. But
hey, I got a bluff story that came up recently. One of my first buying job at General Motors, I was told by my peers that the supplier, Collins and Aiken was the supplier, was sending in the closer. And I'm like, the closer? What are you talking about? I know how to negotiate deals. Who's this closer? I was like, oh, you'll see. They didn't even tell me. So into the negotiation room walks this lady, and she ate my lunch. And I mentioned the competition, and she said, really? Because we're 100 miles closer. So in logistics costs alone, we're going to save you money. Like she knew her competition better than I knew her competition. So you got to be really careful bluffing, because a good salesperson who knows they can't do it will call you out. Yeah.
I got caught out in a real life bluff in a negotiation. I got taken apart by it, but I had to keep a really straight face. And I was with my negotiation buddy at the moment, who was like frantically kicking me under the table. And we got a deal. Probably wasn't the best one, but there's some serious lessons there. But again, this is why I'd rather have practiced doing this and getting kicked under the table.
And for the buyers out there, and we got Martin out there, and have a real bat. Call, if you have a favorite supplier, and a lot of people do, call in their biggest competitor and at least get bids from them. At least be able to say, I've talked to, and you don't have to use the name of the company. It's your choice ethically whether you do or not. But to have a real BATNA is, to me, I always had courage and confidence when I had a real BATNA. If I didn't have any BATNA at all, I might say, I'm not going to talk about your competition. That would be unethical. And I'm inferring that I have talked to your competition, and I'm not going to bring them in. It's my choice to not do that. But boy, under the table, buyers can get really shaky if they don't have an alternative, and the sellers start to know that. Then sellers get courage and confidence.
It's like blood in the water. You've got to be really careful. Again, there are ways that you can practice, or at least practice. I do an exercise. You know this one, Mike, don't you? I do an exercise. Where it's in a workplace. So it's a physical workshop, and if I got 20 people in a room, I don't even know what he's got in his box. There's 20 people in a room. I'll get them lined up, 10 and 10. Buyers' cards down one side, sellers' cards down the other side. Get them to negotiate. They've all got a chance. There's 10 on 10. Yeah. I do the exercise again, and I'll give 15 buyers' cards out, and I'll give 5 sellers' cards out. And then I say, you've got to make a deal. Suddenly, you've got these buyers who are feeling under real pressure. Average price just goes way up. All right. Swip it the other way around. So I say, right, we've got 5 buyers and 15 sellers. Suddenly, the sellers, the market price goes down. So you can actually practice and get the feeling of that competition, again, using the cards. And it's such a valuable approach. Right? But there's visibility.
So the buyers are running around trying to find the sellers, and the sellers are sat there all smug, going, "Oh, you need to speak to me because you've got a little queue of people who are trying to buy off them."
You've got some that will walk into the corner and they'll just wait to the last 15 seconds, and they'll say, "Right, okay, I'm looking for
and this doesn't take
£1,000."
This doesn't take college level students. This doesn't take astute business people. I did it with high school students and saw the exact same dynamic that Phil's talking about. The sellers, when there's a lot of buyers and very few sellers, that price goes way up. And conversely, when there's very few buyers and lots of sellers, the price goes way down. So high school age people get this concept very quickly.
This sounds like a Stanford experiment.
It is. I have a partner, Mark, that we've lost, and but Mark would tell stories about when he was purchasing a General Motors. If he was going to meet with Rockwell Automation, their biggest competitor is Siemens, so he would run out to the shipping dock and he would find a box that said Siemens on it, and he would just put it on his desk behind him. So while he's talking with Rockwell, he knows that Rockwell rep knows that Siemens was there. Now, Mark wouldn't say, "I've talked to Siemens." He would just leave the box there as a prop and let the salesperson, the voice in their head, start screaming at them, "Uh-oh, Siemens has been here. I better be better."
Well, there's another thing there, isn't there? It's like, when you go into an office and you've got to sign the book. All right. I'd often try and have a look to see who else has gone into the book first.
Right. You want the competition to be there first to sign, so that when the supplier you really want comes in, they go, "Oh gosh, who's been in here?" Yeah.
Well, when they turn around to you, say, "Oh yeah, we're speaking to another 5 suppliers already," and I think, well, I've looked at your book and there's no suppliers in there, mate. So I know that might not be so true there.
Yeah. So John says Martin, supplier conditioning. Yeah, it's conditioning them to be like, "Uh-oh, I better be my best. I better put forth a good offer. I better not be outrageous, because my competition will steal this order."
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to wrap it up there because we're getting up to 40 minutes, and I know people get a little bit turned off by talking to three blokes like this. So listen, first of all, Mike, thank you so much for observing and giving some feedback on there. Fred, thank you so much for the negotiation. For those of you who are watching or maybe catch up on a repeat, the whole idea we're here is that we're trying to practice our negotiation skills. I've been in the market for 30 years, and I can tell you now, I still learn every time I do this. So this is not Mike does it, Fred's doing it. We are still learning when we're practicing. I wish I was able to do this at the early start of my career. Desperately wish I was able to do this, because it would have made a huge impact to me as well. Now, that said, I'm not quite sure if there's anything else. Oh, we're on TikTok now as well. Just had to say that. Went on TikTok last Friday, signed up now.
To watch that's peaked. It's jumped the shark. We stay here in the States. If the three of us get onto TikTok, it's over.
It's always got to reinvent something a bit more.
Well, there's two of us now, because I know Fred was on it. He told me, and I thought, no, I've got to go on it now. So Mike, you're just the third one to have a go.
I'll be the last straw on the camel's back, and the whole thing will collapse. Okay.
So listen,
TikTok.
we might not do anything next week. Possibly the week after. I've got a taster. So if anybody's actually watching thinking, oh, I'd like to have a go at this, then come along to a taster. I've got a free taster every month. Come along, have a bit of a practice, get a go with the cards. All right. It's a lot of fun. And as Mike always says, it's a safe environment as well, which is really important. Practice, make sure it's safe. And next time we do this, maybe get a couple of questions as well. But feel free to throw some tactics out that perhaps you'd like us to try. That'll be a new one as well. Right. Saying that, Mike, any final words from you?
No, I just want to thank you for putting this together, and stress your practice sessions are fun. I enjoy them immensely, and it's very safe, and you get to try some things. Even though everybody thinks they're competent, there's that Dunning-Kruger effect, and I learn a lot. Continue to learn, so push yourself, challenge yourself to learn more.
Brilliant. Fred, any final thoughts?
I like Mike. I mean, absolutely. The insights, the sort of the things that people share. Just from this, I mean, you guys have been massively generous. Look at those comments as well. There's so much. I've got so many little things written down, but this 40 minutes has been dead valuable. So yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Okay. In that case, listen, thank you very much. All the best. Keep an eye out for the next set of practice interviews, practice, or pop-up discussions as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to click on end stream and say goodbye.